I am the resident nerd for a catering company in southwestern Virginia, located in one of the most active hauntings in the country. I pick and install the software we use. I update and install drivers. I hold the network together with bubblegum and band-aids, and on occasion, I run the building manager out of the server room. She likes to go in there and pull wires, to see who hollers. A master's in business administration does not in fact equal any type of technical proficiency. Her name is June, but for whatever reason everyone here calls her Skeeter. Whenever I see Skeeter in my hall, I know she's coming to mess around in the building's server room. She gets ideas in her head and experiments, making my life more difficult than necessary. If you can't tell, I don't like her. She's arrogant, condescending to her subordinates, which thankfully does not include me. I work for the company who rents kitchen and dining space, my office, a storage closet, and 2 other offices for the owners of the business. They are a sweet elderly couple who managed to create a thriving business in their retirement. I like them, and I love the job for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is being able to chase Skeeter away from the servers. I started working here after completing my term of service in the Army. Really, I got lucky. The Employment Commission also rents space in the building, and I went for some resume assistance, hoping they'd point me in the direction of gainful employment. As it turned out, the owners, David and Tracy Young, were filling out a help wanted request. We were introduced, and they hired me on the spot. Tracy says it was to save them the paperwork hassle. Most days, I don't have much to do. I help in the kitchen, roll silverware, wash dishes, or not. Sometimes I sit in my office playing Warcraft. On occasion, I phone it in, checking to see if I'm needed, and if not, I enjoy the weather. I'm salaried, paid for 40 hours a week, whether I work them or not, so that's pretty sweet. They're happy. Most days, so am I. We were leaving the Employment Commission. David left after shaking my hand, saying he looked forward to working with me. Said he had a Chamber of Commerce meeting to get to. He kissed Tracy, and they exchanged a look. You should know this building is actively haunted, Tracy told me. I was holding the door open for my new boss when she said it, walking casually past me into the hall. I thought I'd misheard her. An IED, an improvised explosive device, robbed me of a chunk of my hearing. The Army gave me a partial disability for it. Excuse me? I asked. It's true, the place is haunted. It's not so bad right now. She tends to relax in the mornings. She? I asked. No one knows who she was. We call her Ethel. Acknowledging her will usually cause her to stop. Usually. I must have been smiling, because Tracy said, "Listen to me, take her seriously. I know how silly it sounds, but we've lost people, good people, quit their jobs and worse." The intensity of her stare took me aback. I am a veteran, a former spy who worked tactical human intelligence gathering teams. Fear isn't spooks and spirits floating about. Fear is the roar of explosives, as rounds wind past your ear like angry hornets. Walking in a foreign country when an old woman runs toward you, pointing her finger, screaming, "Tee-hee-hee, tee-hee-hee," and you're sure a sniper round is screaming its anonymous way towards your head to erase everything you are. I'm on an intimate first-name basis with fear. It's drawn my balls into my throat, left the taste of electric copper in my mouth. The building is haunted? Are you kidding me? Standing in the bright sunlit hallway, thrill of a new job still cresting within me, overlooking the manicured lawn, it seemed impossible. Was she hazing the new guy? Call me ageist, but she seemed a bit old for games. Okay, I'll bite, I said, fighting to keep my skepticism off my face. Tracy told me about all the usual things you expect to hear whenever someone mentions a haunting. Footsteps, disembodied voices, poltergeist activity. She also mentioned something other than Ethel, another spirit. She said I was likely to see it on days around the full moon. Not always, nothing guaranteed, but I should be more aware. If I saw him, I should stop whatever I was doing and leave the building immediately. Once clear, call her. She'd dismiss the rest of the crew. There was a place in the parking lot where they met up during these emergencies. Having known what it means to be well and truly scared, I nodded politely. I needed the work. Pissing off the boss, arguing the existence of spirits wouldn't do. Let her play her game. No sweat off my sack. Turns out, I didn't know half as much as I thought. What happens if we don't leave? I asked. We leave. No what ifs. My first paranormal experience came during my first time being alone in the building, or our section of it anyway. I'd been there a few weeks, long enough to earn a little trust. I was upgrading the operating systems of our machines from the nightmare of Windows Vista to the relative harmony of Windows 7. Not a difficult task, just time-consuming. I had to keep a machine available in case a customer phoned or dropped by, and I needed to book a catering. Booking catering jobs was everyone's responsibility, from the owners down to the dishwashers. My office has a large window providing a view of the hallway which leads to the loading dock. I have my desk set at a 90-degree angle to the window facing the door. A quick glance to my left and I see all the comings and goings. The server room is located midway down this hall, allowing me to keep an easy eye out for Skeeter. Standing in my door, facing the loading dock, the double doors to the kitchen are on the right. On the left, a set of double doors lead to the main first-floor hallway, paralleling the path in from the loading dock. The square footage here is primarily hall. Seen from the air, the building looks like a W stretched thin. Our dining room is located on the eastern end, and the employment commission is on the western tip. The angles prevent line of sight from one end to the other. Standing in the glassed-in dining room, or one of the offices located on the length of the property, is visible. Overlooking the New River, the property began as a boys' school before becoming a treatment center for the mentally ill. The location is prime, with the river view and next to a university. Still, there aren't many tenants. The hallways are devoid, mostly, of foot traffic. There is a taint here. Something corrupts the ground, the air, keeps people away. It's a hard thing to describe, feeling there is something at the edge of your vision, watching, flicking away before you can turn and face it. My task kept me after hours. Tracy and David both warned me not to stay past 6 o'clock. Unless we had a large catering to oversee, David, Tracy, and I rarely stayed in the office past 4:30. A feeling began around that time of day. They wanted us out. Nighttime is their time. I had no choice. The business required I stay until the updates were complete. I nodded to them both and told them I'd be fine so long as nothing exploded. They laughed and made their way out, exchanging another one of those looks with each other. "Could you go down to the employment commission and roll the trays back to the kitchen?" Tracy asked. "We'll wash them in the morning if you'll park them by the dishwasher." "Sure. I'll head over there now before they close up shop. Do they have a cart?" I asked. "No. I brought it back this afternoon after dropping off the snack trays. You'll have to get one from the kitchen." "Can do. Don't forget to turn the coffee pot off when you leave." "I won't," I said. The coffee pot had been cooking down on the warmer for most of the afternoon, nearing a point where it could peel paint or power rockets. I'd brew a fresh pot for the ride home. Tracy nodded her consent, hooked her arm in David's, and the pair of them left me alone. I set my laptop on my desk. Gaming on the clock makes me feel elitist. After booting up Warcraft, I left to check on the computers in David's and Tracy's office. The system was still updating, so I decided to get the cart and our dishes when I heard it. Footsteps. The distinct click of heels against tile. Sound carries, bouncing off the cinder block and concrete, announcing a visitor before they are ever in sight. Looking out my window, the hallway was empty. The click of heels grew louder. She must be in the main hallway, I thought. Walking through the double doors, I turned to greet our visitor and saw nothing but space, fluorescent lights, and late afternoon Virginia sunshine. The sound shifted, coming now from my hall, behind me. Turning around, I stepped back, and the sound moved again to the main hall. We played a few more rounds of this game. I called, "Hello? Hello?" over and over like an idiot, talking to myself. I couldn't dismiss the tightness in the top of my thighs, the growing fight-or-flight feeling. I stopped. I held the doors open between the parallel halls. "Ethel?" I asked. "Is that you? I know you're around. I hear you." The footsteps ceased. The tension in my legs grew worse, crawling into my stomach with quivering spider fingers. I wasn't alone. I've been taught to fight, and I'm not afraid of man or beast. If I can see it, I can deal with it. But how do you fight invisible enemies? Forcing myself to leave the in-between position of the doorway, I headed around to the kitchen. On the way, I purposefully checked David's computers again, willfully ignoring the crawling sensation between my shoulders. I felt squeezed in a vice, crushed between unknowable forces. Drawing breath was difficult. Had the air thickened, become syrupy? The smell of burning choked me. I staggered into the kitchen and over to the coffee pot. My eyes were burning, watering. The glowing orange power light on the machine doubled, then trebled. Noxious smoke billowed from the pot in a thick column. Covering my nose and mouth with my elbow, I slapped the power switch off, then jerked the fuming carafe from the warmer. The air cleared. The crushing sensation drained away. Normality returned to the world. The coffee in hand was just starting to burn, not the smoking hell of a moment ago. The kitchen was dark and quiet, everything still and calm. Shaking my head, I set the carafe onto the counter, away from the hot plate, and pushed a serving cart into the dining room. As I pushed the stainless steel cart from our dining room to the Employment Commission, I tried to slow both my breathing and my panicked heart rate. What is happening here? I wondered. Is this what happens when you don't believe? The building feels the need to prove itself? I gathered the trays and pitchers of tea and ice water left over from the luncheon. Nodding to the secretary who helped on my resume, I wheeled the cart out of the office. The empty hall lay silent and deserted before me. I had rounded the last bend on the way back to the dining room when I heard a shuffling behind me. Turning to see who was approaching, I saw a young man, possibly 15 or 16 years old. A white bathrobe hung open on his thin shoulders, its cloth belt dangling by his knees. Dressed in a white t-shirt and blue and white striped pajama pants, his curly hair a dark tousled mess, he plodded toward me on bare feet. As he rounded the bend, he extended his hand toward me. "Please, sir, I can't." "Son, are you all right?" I asked. I can't, please." He took another step. Reaching into a large hip pocket on the robe, he removed a .38 caliber pistol. In one swift motion, he brought the pistol to his head and pulled the trigger. I had no time to react. The sound of the round detonating caused me to trip on the cart. Iced tea and water knocked off the cart, spilled to the ground, mixing in an obscene parody of the lifeblood leaking from the boy's head. Pulling myself off the ground, my pants and shirt covered with hours-old lunch, I meant to render whatever aid I could. I didn't expect to be of much help. The boy's head came apart in spectacular fashion. No coming back from a wound like that. Except the hallway was, once again, empty. Not sure of what else to do, I cleaned up my mess, leaving the cart by the dishwasher. Once I came out of the kitchen, I went into my office, blotting at my clothing with a kitchen towel. My laptop on the desk was opened and powered up. I remembered taking it out of my bag, but not turning it on. There was a message on the screen repeating over and over. Word told me the message was over 300 pages, nearly 88,000 words of the same two words.
"Get out."
Looking out my window, I saw him standing motionless at the end of my hallway. Between me and the loading dock exit was a humanoid silhouette. Darkness flowed off the figure like mist spreading outward in all directions. I'd had enough. I ran for the main hall, slamming my office door behind me. Out the dining room door exit, sparing a quick glance for the young man, I took the long way around. I didn't stop until I reached the parking lot. David and Tracy had parked their car behind mine, waiting for me. He sat behind the wheel of their Chrysler 300, and she'd gotten out, coming around to the driver's side window. "Oh, honey, was it bad?" Tracy asked. "I saw a kid shoot himself. I saw the shadows." "You met Tommy and the director in the same afternoon?" she asked. "Messages on my computer. Footsteps. What is happening here? Wait, the kid has a name?" I said between gasps for air. I was out of shape, big time. "Do you believe now?" she asked. In the late afternoon sunshine, it was hard to believe, even after everything. How can I not? "Will you be in to work tomorrow?" David asked, ever practical. "David," Tracy said, giving him a scathing look. "Yes," I said after a brief hesitation. He nodded, satisfied. "Well, lesson learned. Now you know it's real." The lesson had been learned. I knew the spirits in the building were real and vengeful. What I hadn't learned was exactly how much worse things can get. Hey Bear Buddies. Thanks for coming in for another episode of Furberries Fables. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, there are more parts coming. This is just part 1 in a longer series, so stay tuned for more. If you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe, and if you really like it, please share it with your friends. Thanks again for watching. See you on the next one.